Hello everyone, I wanted to talk to you about group tracks and why you should use group tracks within your mix within a DAW. I've just got Cubase 11 actually on a side note. I haven't looked at any of the new features yet. I've bought it and downloaded it. We'll have a look. So something I want to look at, how the new features have improved in Cubase 11, and also want to do because a lot of people are talking about high spec PCs and Macs at the moment with the new chip out, the new silicon chip or the new Mac chip they've got out, so processor that is. What I wanted to show you at some time in the next week is what you can actually run on a completely budget PC. In fact, this PC is so budget, it was very kindly given to me. It's about 10 years old. I think it's got 4 gig of RAM in it. So I've seen a lot of people do the Mac with the new Mac M chip. They've done stress tests, what it can handle. And I thought it might be quite interesting to do it on a completely budget PC, something that you can pick up for next to nothing. But back to group tracks. The reason I think the main reason for using a group track would be to improve your workflow. Certainly as you go on and you're writing more and more tracks, once you get over sort of 30 tracks of audio and MIDI, you're going to end up with the mix being quite difficult to control unless you're taking instrument groups, say guitars, say bass guitars, say drums or percussion, and you're sending all of those separate tracks to a group track. So basically what it's doing is taking all of, say we had 4 guitar tracks, we can send all of those 4 guitar tracks to a stereo bus, we call it, or a group track. So basically we're busing it out. Those 4 tracks are going to one stereo group track or a bus track. And then what we can do from there, if someone said to you, oh, we got to turn the guitars down, or you've sent all your drums to a group track and they say, the drums are too loud, you can bring all of the volume up or down with the slide of one fader and use automation, of course, on one fader. So if you want the chorus to lift with the drums or the drums and guitars, you can actually automate the one fader rather than having to go through all of your different drums or guitars to do that. The other thing is, say you want a reverb on a guitar and you want to use the same reverb to keep continuity in your mix, of course it kind of makes sense. You can put it on the one guitar group track. So what it's doing, simply, if you think about a group, or we call it busing as well, but if you think about a group track, basically it's consolidating all of those tracks down into your mixer, down onto generally a stereo fader track. But it can also be the case you can use multiple groups, but I really wanted to explain it in basic terms first of all, and then we can look at how we can perhaps make a mix bus, which is another stereo fader before it goes to the final out. So that could be really handy, certainly for referencing tracks and when we start looking at effects on the bus. But for now, I'm in Cubase. It doesn't even matter what all of these is. I've just chucked these in. This is what I have done. I've named these and I've sort of color coordinated it so we can see them relatively easily. What I'd do, so say if I just talk you through the tracks so far. These are guitars. So we've got guitar 1, guitar 2 and guitar 3. We've got our bass guitars, and then I've just created a couple of MIDI drum instruments. So one's the Stephen Slate and Groove Agent, which comes with Cubase. Now, if someone sent me this mix, the first thing I would probably think about doing before I did anything was probably group these tracks up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my guitar. So if you highlight the first track you want to be in the group, and then the last one of the group. So I've gone from my first one, and now I'm going to click on the last one, but I'm going to hold down Shift, that'll actually highlight the first and last one. So now we can actually assign this to a group. Another way of doing it, if you highlight the first one, press Control, and then you can press Control on the tracks you want to group. So the reason you'd use Control is if they weren't all sort of next door to each other. So say this was another guitar down here and you wanted this one, you can press Control, and then of course you can highlight those that way. But let's just get those highlighted for now. So it's Shift if they're all next door, and if you want to be more specific about the tracks you want to group, it's Control for that one. So now these are highlighted, I can now right click in this left zone here, and I can go Add Track, as we normally would if we were making an instrument or anything. But can you see here, it says Add a Group Channel to Selected Channels. So I'm going to use that. So right click, Add Channel to Selected, Group Channel to Selected Channels, and then I click on that, and it's asking me what sort of configuration I want to use. Now, because these guitars have got panning and I want them to be wide, I'm using perhaps some stereo effects as well. I'm going to make this a stereo channel, and then I'm going to name it. I'll leave everything else as default for now. Guitars. So I'm just going to name that Guitars, and then hit return. And here you can see it's made me a guitar track, and straight away you can see how useful that could be for automation. So if I wanted, say, a fade, I can put a fade. There's all sorts of things you can do here if you want to sort of experiment, but I'll just Control that to Z that. So first of all, we've got the fade straight away. Now, so I've linked that up. Let's link another one so you can see it in the mix as well. Well, in fact, let's link them all. So I'm going to take my basses, I'm going to right click, I'm going to add it to a group. I'm going to call this bass, and then I'm going to take my drums, I'm going to right click and add track, forgot to do then, send it to a group. Okay, so what's this? Drums. Okay, so now I've got 3 group tracks. What might be worth doing at this point, something I do in a mix, is on these groups I'll probably color coordinate these as well, so I know these are the groups and I can find them really easily. To do that, you see this little area here, so the left hand area in the left zone. If you press Control and click on it, left click, you can choose a color. And you can do that as well, you know, the same principle of when we highlighted all the tracks using Shift or Control, you can do the same thing, but I've just done them individually there. Was it that color? Yeah, kind of. I'm slightly different, but oh, better make it the same. Okay, so these are our group tracks. Now, if I was to play this track now, these would all be routed through or routed through. So all my guitars would be coming into my guitars, all my basses would be coming into my basses, and all of these drums will be coming into the drums. Now, I'm going to show you on a full mix on my other computer how this can work, but I wanted to show you just really quickly on just a few tracks. Now, remember F3 for the mixer. The one thing you'll notice, can you see here, the group tracks, it's named, color coordinated as we did, so color coded, and as you can see, these are now blue. So it's a great way to get to your tracks quickly, your groups. You'll know they're using these different colors. Effects are a different thing because they come up, I think, purple, but we can look at those as well. Now, you know what I was saying about adding effects? Because you've got your insert effects on here, if I wanted to add, say, just a little bit of light compression on all of the guitars, I can do that at literally 2 or 3 clicks. It's job done, because all of these are routing through or routing through into this channel, all of the guitars. Now, it could also be the case that on your EQ you might want to use a low cut in order for the bass to have more, the kick drum and the bass guitar to have more room. You don't want to muddy up the low end, say, on the guitar. So if I was going to cut the low end out on here, it might be the case that I can do it on all of them at the same time, although I've highlighted the wrong track there, sorry. I did that on the bass guitar, sorry. Okay, guitars. So if I wanted to remove the bass frequencies, I can do that, and by doing it on this one channel, it's actually working on, it's cutting the low frequencies out on all of my guitars I'm routing through. So it's quite useful for that. Now, one thing you might do as well is set all your tracks up and you've got your groups and they're working really well, and then you add another guitar, and it could be the case you're not quite sure how then you can get that into the guitar group. And probably the simplest way, if you're in your mixer, can you see here it shows you the routing? So this is our inputs and these are our outputs. So say this was this is a bass, but say for argument's sake this was another guitar that we've just created, and we want this to go to the guitar group. It's just a simple case of using the drop down and just move him to the guitar bus. You've also got that actually on, I'll just set that back to bass. You've also got that if you went into any of these, say you've got your bass here, say for argument's sake again this was a guitar and we wanted it to be part of this group, if you've got it here as well, but you've also got it up here. So can you see here we're at bass, and then we just go to guitars, and that is now routed through to guitars, and you can see it's changed here, so we can swap it there as well. So I'll swap it back to bass now. So that's the other way to do it. So you can if you later on retrospectively, if you want to route something through after. So the way I'd think about groups, think of it as it's speeding up your workflow. It's for efficiency, for controlling automation on a whole instrument group. It's for adding, say, a nice bit of reverb on the whole of the instrument group you want to use. You can EQ a whole instrument group. You can add a bit of soft compression on a whole instrument group. And also, it's easier to solo. You can solo all of your instruments in one go. So if I've soloed my guitar, and I know I want to, these are called some companies or people you might collaborate with may not have the same DAW as you, so they may ask for stems. Now a stem is the group of guitars, or the group of bass guitars, or the group of drums, or even individual ones. But of course if they ask for the group of guitars, you can simply solo that guitar, and then when I export these, it's only going to export my guitars, so it speeds up. If you're working with exporting stems a lot, having group channels really speeds up your workflow. So they're groups. We will look at that in more detail. We'll perhaps look at it in a much bigger mix, and how you can also use a couple of groups within an instrument, so you can sub them out. But that'll be for another video. But good luck with that.